When I first started thinking about joining a board, which would have been about a year before I joined Southdown, I was really keen to join an organisation that I believed in its cause. So it took me a while to find that. And then when I found Southdown, not only did I believe in its cause, but I really enjoyed and understood the ethos that formed Southdown, and that's something that I connected to on a deeper level. So other than being able to bring forward my expertise, I think being able to see how they support their tenants and the people that they work with, I think is really important for me as a board member. Everyone is really supportive, and I think being a first-time board member and also being one of the youngest board members, sometimes it can be quite daunting when you come into a space and everyone is excellent. But every board member has been so supportive, and particularly Pauline and Neil, who have just kind of coached me along the way. They probably don't realise that they're doing it, but just the support that I get in the boardroom and also outside of the boardroom. So I meet Neil once every couple of months where he just checks in on how I'm doing, asks if there's anything that he can support me with, anything that I'm concerned with. And I think that's just reassuring to me. I'm able to kind of voice anything that I have concerns with, but everyone's been fantastic. So I've been helping to support diversity, EDI and employee experience through just general support with the EDI group, sharing my experience, both on a personal basis as a woman of colour, but also kind of my professional experience that I've had in that space. And I think it's been really interesting again to learn and draw from everyone's experiences. And just EDI is one of those topics where people can sometimes be a bit fearful of. But actually what I found here is that everyone's willing to lean into it, which is really important to me. And I think in terms of supporting on kind of employee experience, I've been helping with coaching and mentoring in the background. So recognizing people's leadership talent and drawing on where people are able to grow within their roles, and recognizing my own growth in those roles, I think has been a really good experience in not only their growth, but also my own growth. So the board competencies and commitments is a framework by which the board hold themselves accountable for. So it's the different competencies that are within the group and recognizing that everyone's experience is different, and bringing those differences together actually makes for a really fruitful and sometimes challenging discussions. But I think that challenge is good because it means as a board that we're not remaining stagnant and we are interrogating all of the information that comes to board in a way that is well-rounded. The competencies allows us to check where we are covering all of the different elements a board should cover, whether that's risk, finance, governance, but also being clear on where our gaps might be and how we might fill them. And I think the framework allows us to kind of keep our finger on the pulse on that. So every, I think it's year, we go back and we check our own reflections. How are we, how are we progressing over those competencies, and where are the gaps? Where do we need to kind of be better at, or where are our growth elements? I think it's all a learning opportunity, but I think as a board, we recognise that all of our experiences together ensure that we're able to interrogate all of the stuff that comes to the board effectively. Southdown is a great board to be on, particularly if you're a new board member or you're thinking about joining a board. I think the scale of Southdown allows you to connect to people at all levels, whether you are on the board, with staff, with the residents and clients that they work for. It allows you to see how the organisation is impacting those clients' lives, both on a personal level, but on a career level as well. So we've seen clients who have been part of Southdown for years, and with their complex needs, they've been able to find jobs and they've been able to find connections and find a real network within Southdown, which I think is really special and you don't see very often in the industry. And so I think as a board member, sometimes you can feel quite detached from the kind of work on the ground. But with Southdown, you do have quite a personal connection with all of those clients. So it's really beautiful, I would say, to see how the decisions that you make directly impact the clients that Southdown serve. The most surprising thing to me about being a board member is how far you stretch yourself. I think sometimes you can come into these spaces, particularly if again, if you haven't done it before, as underestimating how much you know and how much you were able to kind of apply your experience in this environment. Now, LD is a environment that I'm not particularly familiar with. I wasn't particularly familiar with because my background is in architecture, but I have been able to see just how much my experience has been able to contribute to the discussions, and actually how I've been able to stretch my thinking and my ability to interrogate information that I might not be familiar with. So I think that's probably been my biggest lesson. I think the commitment is only worth it if you believe in the cause. And for me, again, the reason why it took so long to find a board to join was because I wanted to absolutely make sure that I believed in the cause. So I think with Southdown, you can get that, particularly if you are people focused, if you really want to see change happen. I think Southdown is definitely the place for you to join. The impact Southdown has is vast. I mean, from the staff that they work with to the clients that they serve, I think you can see people are genuinely connected and want to see Southdown do well because they see the benefit that it has to clients. I think particularly in the current climate that we're in, where funding and budget is being pulled from left, right, and centre, actually, you need something that is about looking after the most vulnerable. And often the most vulnerable can be forgotten about. So I think Southdown is absolutely critical, particularly within the climate that we're in now. I would say Southdown are people-centred. I would say that they are ambitious in their thinking. And I would say that they are for the people.